A Stanford University anthropology professor, T. Lerman, recently published an intriguing piece in the New York Times positing that over thousands of years, there are two distinct cultures: wheat people and rice people. Wheat people and rice people. The cultivation of wheat depends on rainfall and individual work, while a community of rice farmers needs to work together in tightly integrated ways, she wrote. As a result, Professor Lerman suggests wheat people, that is Americans and Europeans, tend to be autonomous, self-motivated, entrepreneurial. We prize individuality, while rice people in Asia are characterized by coordination, cooperation, and community. Israel, in case you didn't know, is on the Asian continent, bordering Africa, which begins with Egypt. I landed yesterday afternoon from this trip of a lifetime for the 45 to 50 participants, depending on the day, on our spiritual journey through Israel. And we've developed such a reputation nationally and internationally experiencing the land and people of Israel that joining our temple families this time were members and leaders of our sister Reform congregations in St. Louis, Atlanta, Birmingham, and Chicago, all of whom wanted to go specifically on a Memphis Temple Israel journey. I officiated at the bar mitzvah and bat mitzvahs of 8 children in 8 days, a new record for me, including Jacob and Josh Weinberg from Temple a week ago yesterday near the Golan Heights, and Sydney Ellen Blen at the Western Wall exactly 1 week ago tonight. Israel's external threats, you all read about. Many of you are active in this. They are real, as we all know. Unable to destroy the Jewish state through violence and terror. The latest nonviolent tactics include the shameful and bigoted singling out of Israel by the UN, the Arab world, even American academics, singling out Israel over and above totalitarian regimes, anti-democratic regimes like China, North Korea, Saudi Arabia. Israel, for some reason, is singled out. While our group was in Israel, an international convention for gays and lesbians was taking place in Tel Aviv, leading one participant with roots in a neighboring Arab country to say, "Thank God for Israel. I would be killed in my country simply for being who I am." The scapegoating of Israel is part of the anti-Israel delegitimization movement, which seeks to destroy the Jewish state by demonizing it as colonialist, imperialist, and racist. Those terms do not fit a nation with 103 different races, ethnicities, creeds, and cultures, far away from any empires. It's a Jewish state filled with dark-skinned Israelis, light-skinned Palestinians, and over 20% of Israeli citizens, in case you didn't know, are Arab, not Jewish. Singling out Israel is bizarre and outrageous when the upcoming Knesset elections in March in the Israeli parliament include an Arab Communist Party, which will probably get 3 seats, and even a fundamentalist Muslim party, which will also get 2 or 3 seats in Israel's Congress, not to mention Ethiopians and women in judicial and leading congressional offices in the Middle East. Israel's security needs are paramount, but when you know the Israeli people as friends and family, when you really have family there, as I do, beyond the headlines and geopolitics, the internal fear is equally great right now, that the widening gap between the rich, the high-tech entrepreneurs, and the vast majority of the population who are struggling to survive is unlike any internal threat, Israel has seen to date. One astute Israeli intellectual said to me, if you can't afford the bare necessities, then you lose the safety net, which has distinguished Israel from all the nations of the world, even America. We Jews have always looked out for each other. That's why our income tax is close to 50%. We absorbed the equivalent of France when we took in the Russians. Now, the factions in the political and economic sphere in Israel are becoming like all the other wheat people. They're only looking out for themselves primarily. What gives me hope is where I took our group the day before yesterday, where many of you have been, the inspirational lifeline for the old in the heart of Jerusalem, where Israel's rice character dominates. In this place, you have former Soviet admirals in the Navy who miraculously got out of the former Soviet Union and emigrated to Israel. You have Moroccan immigrants, Russian immigrants, Ethiopians too, all in their 80s and 90s, binding books for school children, making beautiful crafts and Judaica for the public. And instead of these widows and widowers, many of them, staying in their pajamas at home and eating the Israeli equivalent of Cheetos, they get dressed up. They get picked up by the van to make their crafts. They work from 8:30 to 12:30, and then they're fed a community meal, a nice meal. They experience the communal support systems which still distinguish Israel as more rice than wheat. Even on the kibbutz in the north, where our group stayed, there's a sense of community and people looking out for each other, even with the reality of the 293 kibbutzes now know that without a good business to make money, you can't survive. We need individual drive, and we need community, because you can't be a Jew alone. And whether at Temple Israel here or in Israel there, a Jew is never alone. A highlight was a week ago, tomorrow, when I was asked to organize an end of Shabbat Havdalah happening for all the Reform and conservative congregations we knew of visiting Israel from North America. I involved my rabbinic friends leading other large synagogues from coast to coast, and the amazing thing was how instantly members of synagogues from Seattle to New York and, of course, Memphis became connected as one community. Total strangers became like one extended family. Before our group headed to the airport the day before yesterday, I took them to Har Herzl, the Arlington National Cemetery of Israel. I always take groups to the graves of Yitzhak Rabin, Golda Meir, and show them some of the many 19 and 20-year-old Jewish boys who died defending Israel in too many wars. Something unexpected, though, happened only 48 hours ago. As we said Kaddish at the grave of Michael Levin, the you may remember him. He was the lone soldier from Philadelphia who was ambushed in 2006. He went to like one of our Jewish summer camps in the Poconos, and his father's only request was that since Michael died leaving no relatives in Israel, could Israel arrange for a minyan, a group of 10 men or a woman, at his graveside for Kaddish? Thousands and thousands of Israelis showed up as a sign of affection and love for this boy's sacrifice. They were his family and he was theirs. So as I was leading Kaddish at his grave, two parents at a nearby grave, literally the distance between me and the third row, they called over to me in the guide in Hebrew, and they asked us to bring our Memphis group over. These two parents, younger than I, in their late 40s, with a mom and dad of Moshe Nisim, a smiling 20-year-old, who was one of the 67 soldiers killed in Gaza only 3 months ago. Completely grief-stricken, they wanted to tell us about their boy, how kind and caring and sweet and gentle and young he was. I had 17 kids with me. They didn't blink. They even shed tears as these parents shared the quote they chose on their son's tombstone. It's from the Mishnah: "Be of the disciples of Aaron, loving peace, pursuing peace, loving all humanity, and bringing everyone closer to the principles of Judaism." I bent down, I hugged and I kissed the mom and told her in Hebrew that her son would not be forgotten and that we send our love and prayers with all our soul and might. Then I hugged the dad who he told me, taken up smoking and seemed to have visibly aged before my eyes. And then they thanked us for stopping by so they could share the story of their son with the community of Israel, us. We were all in tears, virtually speechless. In fact, we rode back to the hotel speechless before packing for the flight home. Tonight in the Torah, the story of siblings struggling with each other finally comes to an end. After the fights of Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau, Joseph and his brothers, Jacob blesses his sons and grandsons with the words we're supposed to bless all Jewish sons every Friday night. Girls are so blessed to become like Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, the matriarchs of Judaism. But boys are not blessed to become like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Instead, Jacob says on his deathbed, and we say to this very day to all Jewish sons, may God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh, who carried forward the life of our people. Why Ephraim and Manasseh, the grandsons of Jacob? Because they may be the first two siblings in the Bible who actually got along. They didn't fight over birthrights, who was better. They didn't fight over blessings. With Ephraim and Manasseh, the story of siblings struggling with each other finally comes to an end. These two teach us that we do not have to fight over blessings. There are enough of them to go around. Or perhaps we bless Jewish boys in their name because, like you and me in Memphis, Tennessee, Ephraim and Manasseh did not grow up in Israel. They grew up outside the land of Israel, and they still remain Jews. Regardless of the reason, on this first Sabbath of 2015, this week's Torah portion is both a conclusion and a foreshadowing. As the end of Jacob's life draws near, he wants to ensure the continuity of the family. The boys bury their dad, they bury him, and the grandsons bury him in Egypt temporarily. They bring him back to the land of Israel. The brothers are now reunited as a family and looking back, even in their deaths. All these matriarchs and patriarchs you're facing in the Torah represent the uniting of family. Even in their passing, these ancestors were considered to continue to live in us and through us, which is why the name of this week's portion, while it talks about their deaths, is not "and he died." It's "and he lived." Jacob. Am Yisrael Chai. The people of Israel live from Memphis on the Mississippi to Israel on the Mediterranean. What makes us who we are as a people, for all our individual striving as wheat people, are the attributes of the rice people: community and cooperation. May these traits, which go back to this week's blessing in the Torah of children and grandchildren, be embraced by each of us in this sacred community, throughout the land of our people, across time and space, in our own time and place. And let us say, Amen.